Hello, Narnach here. Welcome back to Diablo 3. This is Season 4 and I wanted to share a nice build I found for the Witch Doctor that I've been leveling on hardcore. And this is a build that uses Haunt and Spirit Barrage as the main attack skills combined with Grasp of the Dead. There are some pets to keep the enemies in place and act as a basically as a distraction. That's also why the fetish sycophants are there. And this build has been doing pretty well so far. So this is a very quick overview. I'll go into depths of the different parts as well. This build uses a two-handed weapon. While leveling, I've been using two-handed axes and swords and things like that, and once I was able to craft the Magi, I switched to that one. It does a ton of damage, which is very useful for for all the skills that this build uses. So, what does it do? You cast Grasp of the Dead on the floor to slow down the enemies, and because it does a ton of damage over time.
Years for this. Should I return to my slumber?
Enchantress, shh. It does a ton of damage over time, so a lot of the smaller enemies, they instantly die. But this is a form of slowdown, crowd control, so to keep enemies at a distance. While enemies are affected by this, your dogs and your gargantuan, and if you have them, your fetish sycophants as well, they have a chance to storm towards the enemies and pin them down in the locations where they are. So that's one element of safety. This is a hardcore build. Safety is key. Keep them down, keep them away. If they never hit you, they can't kill you. That's a very good way to live. Then onwards to the primary skill, Haunt. Haunt does an insane amount of damage. 4000% weapon damage over 12 seconds translates to 333% damage per second. And this is weapon damage. You're using a two-hander that has a slow attack speed. That means that each hit of your weapon does a lot of damage. So when the damage is multiplied by 40 for the damage per second, or for the total damage of the Haunt skill, that damage goes through the roof. So you do a lot of damage with Haunt, up to the point where I was leveling in hard before, and I was one-shotting regular minions consistently with the first tick of Haunt. Nice thing about Haunt is that after it kills something, it jumps over to the next enemy. So while you are just happily clicking away, casting Haunt on everything, the Haunts that kill things will spread, and eventually, even though this is a single target skill, a single Haunt can take out 4 or 5, or maybe even more enemies, depending on how large the pack is in the duration of a battle. So that's a very, very powerful skill. Second one, once all enemies nearby have been haunted, you switch to Spirit Barrage. Spirit Barrage, right click, hold, keep channeling. And if you use the Spirit is Willing, you gain 12 mana for every Spirit Barrage that hits, which times 4 basically means you get half of your money back. So it's a free skill, but it's 400% weapon damage. So that's a very nice combination. And most of the time, when you're fighting regular monsters, Haunt is all you need. Because by the time you're done haunting everything, they're dead. There's no time to actually use the Spirit Barrage. Because remember, there's the Grasp of the Dead and your pets as well that are doing damage. This is mostly for act bosses, rift bosses, things like that. Zombie dogs. I use the chilling zombie dogs because they chill things and keep them in place. Yet another element of safety. And they also increase damage that enemies take by 15%. So this synergizes nicely with the other skills. Gargantuan uses Cleave just as a form of crowd control. Jungle Fortitude keeps you safe. Then Zombie Handler gives you extra life, and an extra zombie dog, which helps with crowd control and survivability. And lastly, fetish sycophants, just to get more things out. I started playing the first version of this build basically around the time I unlocked Haunt and Spirit Barrage, because Grasp of the Dead is the second skill you unlock. So that's somewhere between 15 and 20 you can start with the basis of the skill. Obviously you only have Jungle Fortitude. By the time you hit 20 you get a second skill up. I think I used Blood Ritual until I got Zombie Handler, because the 1% extra life regen is nice and you don't use that much mana. So that's a pretty nice upgrade. And then once you get hit level 30 you get the Fetish Sycophants, which is, yeah, later on there's more things that boost your pets, but that's for a later bit. And of course the Spirit Walk with the Jaunt rune to allow you to escape if you do get surrounded by things. Pack of teleporters, for example, or wallers, or just nasty things that you can't deal with that do a lot of damage. This is just an escape button. Most of the time you use this to get to run back when you hit a dead end alley, rather than escaping from combat, since it doesn't happen a lot. But it's hardcore. You always want a way to get out if things get really tricky. Okay, the item build. So, two-hander. All the sockets on your gear put in resistance elements. The diamonds for resist all. Currently I got about 300 resist all. That's 60% resistances, plus the 15 resist from the Jungle Fortitude. Makes you pretty darn sturdy. I mean, life pool is 20,000, toughness is 90,000. So my resistances give me a multiplier of 4.5 times. Which also means that life regeneration, which is at 800 points, is quite a bit. Every point of life that gets regenerated means I have to get hit for 5 points of raw damage to actually apply, because my toughness is so much higher. So if you have a build that has a lot of resistances and armor and forms of damage mitigation, life per second or any form of life regen you have really starts to get important, and it really gets multiplied, so it gets really powerful. And the fact that I'm using the Haunt rune that gives you life per second only makes it better. If you're facing down a pack of 5 nasty blues, then there's going to be over 800, 900 points of life per second added to it. So that doubles life per second, which means you will be very sturdy. Lastly, follower. I chose to go with the Enchantress. I also crafted a nice Magi for her and gave her some of the control runes. You could go for Charm just to get some extra bodies on your side. Instead I went for the Arcane Explosion, because doing a bunch of damage every 5 seconds is pretty nice, and it knocks things around, which for this build works pretty well. Let's see, slows down melee attackers by 60%, that's nice, it's yet another form of safety. So if you get attacked you can run away, and if they hit you the enemy will stay behind a little bit, so it makes it easier to escape. Yet another damage skill. And enemies take 3% increased damage. It's not a lot, but it's better than confusing them, I suppose. And more, and chickens. Can't argue with chickens. Just disabling 5 enemies for a while is very useful. So, and just for the rest, just boost their damage and just put on whatever. Doesn't really matter. Let's see, anything else? I just picked up random legendaries while leveling up. I crafted the Pentagrasps. Reduced control duration is pretty nice. And for the rest, go for stats. Intelligence, vitality, life per second. Just stack that on everything. Make sure there's some speed on your boots just to run through faster. Yeah, if you're lucky, you have skills that boost your damage, like this one, 15% extra damage to the Spirit Barrage. It's all nice. Okay, so for leveling, what I did, this is adventure mode. I just do the bounties. It's fun. It's varied. You go through every act. You do 5 of the bounties. You move on to the next act. especially now since the 2.3 patch, that the bounty actually, or the bonus actually moves from act to act as you clear them. Basically means you can clear the entire game, all 5 acts, before moving on. In between doing the bounties, I do some rifts just to get some variety in. And this is basically the result of, I think it's 4 hours of play, 5 hours of play. So I did a full run through of all acts, got all the bounties there, picked up a couple of legendaries, got some gems that I've slowly been upgrading. At the point now where I'm almost able to equip flawless diamonds in all my gear, so then I go from 30 resistance per gem to 40, which increases the survivability. And every once in a while upgrade your gear. So always make sure, if you go high as usable, always make sure that you get yourself the best weapon you can get. Early on, that's going to be crafted 200 swords or 200 axes. Staffs, once you get access to them, might also be useful. And if you are lucky enough to find legendaries or craft legendaries, then that's a win. So, and with that, let's jump into a rift. It's a clear one. See how this build actually plays. So as I said, I did a complete clear of the game on hard, leveling myself from about level 10 to level 40. So I just switched to upped the difficulty to expert. Basically just looking to gear up. And by the time I'm one-shotting most of the minions again, then it's time to move on to master. The one thing you don't want to do is increase difficulties too fast, where you get to a point where it takes you half a minute to kill a single trash mob, because then it takes a long time to kill things, which is not fun. So you have unfun gameplay, and on top of that, it's also not very efficient. So if you can go through the game more or less insta-gibbing or two-hitting all the white mobs, then you have a pretty decent pace of advancement. Then when there's bosses, yellows, purples, sometimes even interesting blue ones, then you get interesting fights. So you want to find a balance there between killing things fast enough and having at least a little bit of a challenge to keep the game interesting. At least that's my personal take on it. That's not good.
My power grows vast.
So, let's see. See, took some damage, but because we have resistances stacked up the wazoo, we can actually last quite a bit. So, for most of these battles, I cast the grasping hands on the floor, and then it's haunting. And if you pay attention, there's hardly ever a Spirit Barrage except for when there's really nasty bosses. So you lock them in place, haunt them, and by the time by the time I might even consider casting Barrage, most of the enemies are already dead. Let's see. So, but currently the feel is that I do plow through things, so I might actually bump the difficulty to master soon as well.
My strike is true.
But you want to increase difficulties one at a time and only bump it when you're really sure you can handle it. On hardcore, I mean on softcore it doesn't really matter if you die because you overestimate what you can handle. On hardcore, yeah, rather err on the safe side. In terms of build, this is a life regen and resistance heavy build, as I am playing it because it's hardcore. On softcore, you might want to play it slightly more aggressive in terms of stats, emphasize critical chance and critical damage earlier. So rather than going for a bigger life pool and bigger amount of resistances, go for damage and crits. Because hey, it doesn't really matter if you die every once in a while. Yeah, it's just a trade-off for what's efficient. I mean, if you die every minute, that's gonna cost you a lot of money. It's gonna cost you quite some downtime because you have to run back every once in a while. So then from a gaining XP or loot point of view, you're not really doing a good job either.
Your death comes.
But yeah, Spectrum currently able to mostly just focus on explaining what I'm doing rather than actually playing the game. I'm mostly playing on autopilot now. That's a good indication that the difficulty is slightly too low. But that's also something you can use for yourself. If you find yourself watching television on the side or doing something besides sitting on the edge of your seat playing the game as if your life depends on it, then maybe it's time to increase the difficulty. Let's have a look, focus a bit on how much damage does a single hunt do. Let's see, enemies. So, single hunt. 14,000 points of damage. So, battle, this was one of the first time I actually just started channeling Spirit Barrage. Small groups are like this, it works. It just helps you kill bosses faster. In terms of progression, there are some sets later on that boost the efficiency of Hunt. And some legendaries and some sets. There's the rubbish with names, but you'll know it when you find it. There's one that normally when you cast Hunt a second time, it doesn't do much. It might reset the duration on the enemy, or it might just jump instantly to the next enemy, but you can't stack Hunt on a single enemy. There is an item that allows you to, when you hit an enemy for the second time with Hunt, it actually applies 10 full seconds of Hunt damage instantly, which translates to roughly 33 times weapon damage in a single hit. So then suddenly just chain casting Hunt on the same enemy becomes a ridiculously powerful strategy, and you don't even need Spirit Barrage anymore, which is interesting. There is also a set, or a set bonus I think, where Hunt never expires, or I think the duration gets increased to 5 minutes or something like that. Effectively it never expires, which combines very well with the previous set that applies the damage instantly for 10 seconds. And the set that makes Hunt last for a long time is also the set that does a similar thing for the damage bonus from piranhas. So if you're making Spirit Barrage redundant, you could replace it with piranhas. And it also applies to Locust Swarm, which is also a very nice DPS attack, which also effectively lasts infinitely. So in that case you could drop Grasp of the Dead and Spirit Barrage for those other two skills, for the piranhas. But piranhas here because it also has a cooldown, so mechanically wise it's the same. And Locust Swarm, put it on the right mouse button. One of the downsides of Locust Swarm is that it's a very close range skill. So you need to get closer to your enemies, while Spirit Barrage and Hunt are very long range skills, and you can basically treat it as a artillery type interaction, where you shoot from a very long distance and especially just try to avoid getting in melee range. So your interaction with monsters will be slightly different, so the emphasis on having a decent tank on your build will be stronger. One of the nice things of running Haunt is that levels with lots of little minions that are reasonably dense, you can get insane massacre bonuses. One of my previous playthroughs, I had a streak. I think I had 349 kills, which in a Act 3 type setting with all those little spider monsters, spider demon things, it was nice. I think that's a new personal record. So if you still need the achievement for the kill streak, this is a very nice build to actually help you achieve that. And Haunt is also very nice for getting out of frozen situations, like so.
The Rift Guardian is
And we have a Rift Guardian. I size made him.
Needs more time.
Let's see. Okay. So let's go. So, Grasper, Haunter, Channel, and she's dead already. So that was a decent run. And this is might not be the most efficient build. It's safe and it's fun to play. So if you are into builds like that, this could be a very nice build to give a try. Let's see what we got from the run.
your valor.
So, of course there are no caches here because that's only for full clearing acts. Okay, so I thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this. If there's any questions you have or ideas you have to improve the build or just any type of feedback, please do leave a comment. And for the rest, if I think of other nice ideas, I might make more videos. But with that, I thank you for watching and I hope to see you next time. Bye bye.